Okay. Hey, welcome back to the cabin once again. With the recent cold snap across the continental United States, the biggest question that people have been asking me is, will that fireplace produce usable heat for the house? So let's get a fire started and I'll answer that question for you right now today. Let's get it going. First thing we need to make sure we do is get that damper open. If you don't open up the damper, it'll just smoke out the house. So for those of you that don't know, it's just a door, a window, whatever you want to call it, right above the opening that allows the smoke to go out of the house and keeps the cold air out too when you're not using it. And this one just pushes straight open. I do like to use just small pieces of pine to get my fire started because it's got the pine sap in it, it's good and dry, it's what's going to light up the fastest. And there are some pieces of pine in here, like this is a piece of pine, and there's a couple more pieces floating around here. I like them too because you'll watch, they produce the most flame. The other ones will produce the most charcoal. Pine does not produce much charcoal, but it does produce a lot of heat right up front. Let's just put a couple pieces on there and get that started. So all across the continental United States, homes that were built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, almost every single one of them have an open fireplace similar to this. You can sit with me. Have an open fireplace similar to this. Now, maybe not stone. Most of them were made out of brick and they would have a firebox. When I built this cabin, this stone was in the original log cabin, and it was this style fireplace that was in the original 1800s log cabin. And I wanted to stay correct. It was important for me to keep it true to what it was. If it would produce heat or even if it wouldn't, I wanted to stay true to what this cabin was when it was originally built. So that's why this fireplace is here, is because it's keeping true to what they would have had back in, let's say, the 1600s, the early 1600s, the 1700s, the early 1800s. This is what would have been put in every single fireplace, or every single home in the United States would have had fireplaces similar to this. Some of them a lot smaller. This was a multi-purpose fireplace when it was in the cabin. It was used to do all the cooking. It was used to produce whatever heat they had for the home. So for those of you that are following me here at the cabin, you know that behind you on the other side of the room, I have a potbelly stove, which is my preferred choice to heat this place. But the question I get on a lot of my videos, whether it's the cooking videos or me just sitting by the fire telling a story, is does the fireplace produce usable heat? So this morning when I got up, I let the potbelly stove go out, and I do have a wood furnace in the basement. It is out. We started out at 3 degrees Fahrenheit this morning here. So it is very chilly out there today, and I don't think we're supposed to get past 15 or 16. So it is very chilly outside, and the thought of, can I produce heat with this? I just thought today was the perfect day. Today is the perfect day to put that to the test. I will tell you that I've only had a fire going for a couple minutes, and the house is like where I'm sitting right now with that fire right there is very comfortable compared to, like, I've been chilly all morning because all the fires have been going out. I've been letting the house drop in temperature on purpose just so I could do this video. And this is very comfortable. So let me get a couple more logs on there, really get that thing burning, and then we'll move on. Okay. It's a good girl. You can sit there. It's a good girl. So the first thing we have to understand that in the days of this open fireplace, there was nothing else. There was no other source of heat. They weren't even building Rumford fireplaces at that time, and there weren't any fireplace inserts. There weren't any potbelly stoves. There weren't any of those things. This is all they had to heat their homes. Now the temperature, since I put more wood on there, the temperature that I could feel on myself had actually it's been reduced because I lost flames. All of the heat that comes from an open fireplace comes from the radiant heat that the light is putting off. So as the light from the fire hits me, that's where our heat's coming from. There is no heat transfer like with a potbelly stove. You have a heat exchanger. The whole thing is a heat exchanger. So it's really hot on the inside, and that heat is transferred through the metal to the outside. It's not because there's any light coming to the room from the fire. An open fireplace is the opposite. If you keep an open fireplace burning with a really low fire, and it's just smoldering, and there's not very much flame, you will get no heat, because it's hard to see it right now, but the natural flow in here, and I can feel it, is that the air from the room is drawing straight toward me real slow, and it's pushing into the fireplace. And that's how the smoke stays inside of there. Because if there wasn't that natural flow that's coming toward the fireplace and it's pushing the fire back, if that didn't exist, well then the fire would just roll right out the front as well. We finally got us some heat, don't we? Been chilly in here this morning, hasn't it? Okay, well, it's time to lose the toboggan. Switch over to something just a little bit cooler, because it is getting hot right here. Now, that's right here. Okay, so earlier I mentioned I had shut off all sources of heat in order to shoot this video. I didn't want to skew the results in any way, shape, or form of whether or not this thing is producing usable heat for the house. But what had happened, because I did that, the house reduced drastically in temperature because it's cold outside. And so this effect of feeling this fire feels really good because the house was kind of chilly to start with. So in cases where you have no heat in your home, yes, it will produce usable heat. The problem is, as Americans and the American way, and other parts of the countries too, I'm not just picking on us Americans, we keep our house at a much warmer temperature through the winter. For most homes in the United States, the average temperature that people keep their homes set at is probably 70, 71, 72 degrees. So if the goal was to save money, burn your fireplace to save money. Let's just say you have gas heat or oil heat or electric heat, And what you would like to do is, you have a fireplace, you've never used it, you would like to save money. Archie's at the window wanting in. Coming in, bud. You coming over by the fire, Archie? If you're trying to keep your house at 60 or 70 degrees and it's cold outside like it is today, and you're hoping to burn an open fireplace to reduce the cost of your heating bills, I would say don't do it. Don't do it. I often tell my chimney sweep customers, especially if it's someone who called who has never burned a fireplace before and they don't know anything about it, and they call me out to do an inspection to see if it's safe to use, to sweep the chimney if it needs to be swept, and they've never used it before, and I'll ask them one question: are you trying to save money? Are you trying to save money by burning the fireplace? And if they say yes, I tell them the best way to save money when burning a fireplace is don't burn it. Don't burn it. Because you can see the mass of air that this thing is drawing out the top as it feeds that fire and goes up that chimney and takes all that smoke with it. For every drop of air, for every gallon of air that gets sucked up that chimney, somewhere else in this house, a gallon of that cold air from outside is being sucked back into the house. Now, I've got this a couple times. You don't have an outside air inlet coming into the fireplace, and yes, an outside air inlet would help a little bit, but typically those are done with a 4-inch hose. I've got like a 20 by 20 or a 17 by 17 flue in this thing. You're not going to suck the volume of air through that tube. That would reduce that suction very much on the house. And really, the outside air inlets were only developed because today they're building homes so airtight that fireplaces like this won't even work. You would build a fire and smoke would just come rolling in the house. And it's not because there's anything wrong with the fireplace, it's because the house is built so tight that it can't do that air swap. It can't make that air swap. And I'll tell you honestly, on most of the homes that have outside air, but the house is still super airtight, they still don't work. They still don't work because you can't get enough air through that 4-inch hose to feed it. So for the sake of this video, we are strictly sticking with open fireplaces. Yes, I understand you could put a wood burning insert. Let me move that for you, bud, so you can sit up there. There you go. Yes, you could put a wood burning insert inside of here and put a liner up the chimney and build little fires, and it would heat the home way better than this open fireplace would. But I do have the potbelly stove on the other side that I use to produce heat. I don't use this primarily for heat unless it's early fall when the temperatures outside are 40 degrees, 50 degrees. I love to build a little fire in here because it heats up the whole place real nice. And the reason for that is the difference between the amount of heat that I'm losing, the temperature that I'm losing up the chimney versus the temperature outside is so close together that it doesn't have to produce much heat for the house to be effective. So in those months, or here coming in the early spring, when I typically do not burn this thing just for heat is right now. Right now, when we're doing this test, I will, if I want to cook a meal over the open fire, I will build a fire in there and I will cook a meal because I love the flavor of the food cooked over the open fire. I love the authenticity of doing it. I love to cook over an open fire. Because I'm trying to live this simpler lifestyle, it's things like that are lost, that are gone. People just don't stop in a day and throw a chicken over top of an open fire or roast a hot dog in the fireplace, or people just don't do those things anymore. So I really enjoy doing it because it's the middle of the day and it's relaxing to just sit and sit by the fire and cook a meal. But it's primarily not used for heat this time of year. It's better to use one of the others. But remember, they didn't have anything else. So if I was to have no other source of heat, none, if there would be nothing, I'd like that. That is really comfortable. This is a very comfortable place to sit. As a matter of fact, it's almost borderline too hot right now. It's almost like I should probably get up and move just a little bit away from it. So I hope that helps someone out as far as, does it produce usable heat, and that is heat for the home. If the house is 72, 73 degrees and you're gonna build a fire and expect the house to get warmer, don't build a fire. Just leave it closed, because the extreme portions of your home, the further away from this fireplace you get, the colder the temperature is gonna be. I'm gonna bet you if I went to the back of my house right now, the very back, the back room, I'll bet you the temperature is 50 degrees colder than it is where I sit right now, if not more than that. Because airflow in here, all of the air from the entire house is flowing toward me, and it's flowing into that fireplace. A lot of times I'll tell people who want to build a fire when it's really cold, they're not doing it for the heat. I tell them to crack a window right by the fireplace. Because if I crack that window, it will cause a draft that'll go straight from the fireplace, it'll go straight from that window, straight across behind me and right into the fireplace. And it will not suck any heat out of the rest of the house. It'll come straight from that window, straight across, right into the fireplace, right up the fireplace. And that's the only direction it'll come from. It'll stop that vacuum on everything. So that's a good way, but you're still not producing any heat. It's not gonna increase the amount of heat you're gonna produce. It's just gonna stop the vacuum on the rest of the home. They rather enjoy the heat. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up for me for today. I hope that answers some questions. If you have any other questions, put them in the comment. I was simply doing this because people had asked this very question. Does it produce heat? So that's why I shot this video. For a lot of you out there, you already knew exactly what I was gonna say, and a lot of people had commented on my other videos, I hate fireplaces because of that reason. But I still love my fireplace, even if it doesn't produce usable heat. It's got more purpose than just usable heat. So I still love it. The next two videos we're gonna do, and I haven't shot them yet, so I don't know if it'll be a day or 2 days or 2 weeks. I never know. I shoot my videos when I felt pushed to do it, or when I feel like shooting them, I do it. We're gonna do a really dive deep into the cook stove. We're gonna tear it apart, and we're really gonna dive deep into how it works. It's really fascinating that, in the early 1900s, they were cooking on things like this. So we're gonna dive deep into that. And then the next one we're gonna do is the potbelly stove. We're gonna do a runaway video. We're gonna do like those things are really particular. You have to be very careful how you use a potbelly stove, or the early 1900s style potbelly stoves, parlor stoves. You had to be careful how you use them, because if you wasn't careful, it's not like the modern stuff where they only have a little bit of air coming in. If you're not careful, they will do what's called runaway, which means they'll just start burning so hot that you can't control them, and the sides of the stoves will all turn cherry red. And we're gonna talk about some things. I burn that potbelly stove 24/7 all winter long. and I've really learned how to control it so that I don't have to worry about those things when I go to bed. And I do put enough wood in it that it's the next morning, if there's not some embers in the bottom, it's still hot. So it is heating the cabin all night long. So that will be one of the next upcoming videos. So everybody take care and stay warm out there. See you now.